admit it, I'm a newbie when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. When I grew up, none of my friends or people at school played it, and where I lived, there were no clubs or stores or events where you could have tried the game. So, Dungeons and Dragons really didn't play a big part in my youth. But later, I learned about it by reading and hearing about it, both because it was part of pop culture, but also because I heard again and again just how influential it was for games that I enjoyed. So eventually, much later, a couple of years ago, I really got interested. I really wanted to get into the game. So I started some research. I read websites, I read guides, I read books about the game. I read some of the Dungeons and Dragons novels, like the Drizzt ones, and even right now, I'm reading the origin story of Elminster, for example. So I also got myself a starter kit, browsed through the rulebook, the bestiaries, etc., and my fascination grew. Listened to some podcasts where people explain how to play the game and special tactics and what's important, and trying to get you into the game. So all of that got me more and more interested, and so I have played some Dungeons and Dragons computer games. For example, Baldur's Gate 3. That will come out in August, and I'm planning on recording myself playing it, doing some videos on it. I also have like this little idea where I'm gonna invite someone who knows much more about D&D than I do, and stream like together with him. So I had this other idea, which I would like to do first. I wanted to see whether I could play a computer game heavily influenced or like very much based on Dungeons and Dragons, and maybe learn a bit more about the game that way. A game that apparently is pretty authentic when it comes to the rule set. So I wanted to try this out, and that's why I picked Solasta, Crown of the Magister. It came out a while ago, and it was recently on a sale, so I got that. I got some of the DLC, and I heard that it's very much it's very true to the D&D rule set and to Dungeons and Dragons itself, and that it's a great game for beginners to the franchise or to the rules. It's based on the 5th edition rules, which doesn't really tell me much. I've got a good friend who keeps saying 2nd edition is best, 5th edition isn't really good. I don't know, but I really would like to get into it, and maybe I should just go and look for a Dungeons and Dragons group that invites people to join, or like a store where you can try it out. But for now, I would like to play this game and use the 5th edition rule set and try to, see how it plays and maybe learn something about the game, about Dungeons and Dragons and its rules. So, what I would like to do is first, I would like to show you the character editor. I already made myself some characters, and then I would like to play this game a little bit. And this will probably take more than a video or two, and I'm gonna do that in a loose order because I'm also doing these Ultima playthroughs, which I'm enjoying a lot. So let us take a look. So Solasta, it's got pretty good reviews. I think the things that are mostly criticized are the voice acting and character models, which look a little dated and stuff, but we'll find all that out. When you start a new game, you can pick characters. You can either use pre-made characters that the developers put in, or you can create your own. And there, the whole Dungeons and Dragons system already comes to play. So what I would like to do, I made some characters, and I don't know if they're good or not. I just went by a little bit of gut feeling. And also, I read the tooltips, I read the descriptions, telling me, what's important, what stats to look for, and I'm gonna use these for a new game. But before we do that, let's look at what it's like to create a character in this game. So first, you get to pick your ancestry, your race. So you can have hill draws, dragonborn, half-elves, half-orcs, human, high elf, and marsh halfling. And let's say I wanted to make a rogue. Now, I talked about that D&D is very influential to other games. So, you know, by playing games that were inspired by it, I mean, you know, look at World of Warcraft and how much it took from Dungeons and Dragons, and even games like, I don't know, Dark Souls or something. They all took some inspiration from the game, just like D&D took some inspiration from fantasy novels or like the works of Tolkien. But, you know, based on having played some RPG games, I figured that maybe for, let's say, a rogue, I would need dexterity, right? So I just figured maybe an elf would be a good idea. And we can see when we pick that ancestry, you can see the bonuses you get, +2 dex, and it measures agility, reflexes, and balance. Important for rangers, rogues, and monks. So I guess I was right in my guess there. It also has an intelligence bonus, which is important for wizards, for example. And it has all these other things attached to it, that ancestry. Like high elf lineage features is like your move range, your ability score increase, your elf weapon training, longsword, short bow, longbow. Doesn't sound too bad for a rogue. So I'm going with this, and I'm not, as I said, I'm a noob, or I'm not exactly a specialist. I read quite a bit of stuff and I've played games based on these systems, but I never played a whole full Dungeons and Dragon game where people sit together, right, around a table, they roll the dice and everything. I never had the fortune to do that yet. Maybe I should, but based on what I figured, you know, that sounds like a good mixture. Next, you can pick your class, and so we've got the rogue, and the tooltips in the game really do a good job at explaining stuff. But of course, you know, a rogue, we all have like this image or this idea of what a rogue is like. So saving throw proficiencies. I have a rough idea what a saving throw is. And like when you need to roll on an activity you want to do, and that roll has to do with dexterity, for example, maybe like dodging an attack, I guess, then you have a better chance because you've got dexterity as your proficiency. Rogue armor proficiencies, light armor, the weapons, simple weapons, longsword, rapier, short sword, and since the elves have that as well, you know, that seems to be a good mix. Then I can choose 4 of these skills. We get to that in a second. And yeah, that looks pretty cool so far. Next, I can pick out a background, and you know, maybe I'm thinking of like, this would be good for when you create a character and in your head you've got the story going, where your character went through and where it comes from. But also I heard in one of these podcasts that these actually will be helpful in some situations where maybe your class and race wouldn't give you enough of an ability or a chance. Your background might. And so let's take a look and see. Maybe a spy. That sounds good for a rogue, right? Like maybe he was a spy for someone, and then he went freelancer and became a rogue. So there's an explanation story-wise what the spy does, and when I click on it, I can see that I can pick out certain background personality flags, and I can pick 2 of these. These change, the upper ones change the background personality flags based on what class I take. And you know, I could also do something weird, like maybe he's an artist who became a rogue, and you also get some background equipment. Cancel contract, 25 GP, noble clothes. As a spy, I get these tools, 25 GP, poisonous kit. That sounds pretty much like something I would want as a rogue, right? Or I can get like 10 GP military campaign ribbon. But let's go for the spy. And for personality flags, and I'm sure if you are a D&D pro or you've played a lot of games, maybe you're rolling your eyes at what I'm saying or what I'm picking. But for example, I don't want to stick too much to cliche. I mean, a spy, rogue, elf, whatever, that may be some obvious choices, but maybe I'd want to go for something else. I mean, greed would be very obvious, but cynicism as well, or caution. So these kind of fit, but let's say I take caution. Don't want to be caught, right? And I was a spy, so I had to be cautious. And maybe I'm a cynic. And So this is important also for dialogues, as far as I know, the stuff that I pick here. But maybe he also has some good traits, like some kindness. Or maybe he's like a very authoritative figure. So, you know, I could take that. And so I move on, and here I get to roll the dice, yay, Dungeons and Dragons, and I can pick, I can roll the dice and then distribute the numbers I get to my skills. Unfortunately, the game tells me what to look for. I mean, dexterity I figured out, but the game also tells me that constitution and intelligence are important. I think the highest number you can get, and that is what I heard on another podcast, is 18. I can re-roll. And that looks nice. I got a 17, which is pretty high. But also I've got like a 9 and a 7. And maybe I would like to keep doing this until I get something like this. Everything is above 10. That sounds pretty good. So let's put the 16 into dexterity, 14 into constitution, 13 into intellect. And I'm gonna distribute these like that. And also, the game, and I read these tooltips when I made my characters, tells you, for example, strength measures bodily power, athletic training, and the extent to which you can exert raw physical force, important for fighter, paladin, barbarian. So maybe not quite as important to me. And, you know, I get these bonuses to dexterity, constitution, intellect, which is nice. And, yeah, I think I'm kind of happy with this. This would probably be what someone like me who page through a rule book, has read a bit about it, would pick. So next, I can pick class skills. Choose 4 skills from acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, and so on. So what I would like to do, maybe acrobatics. Your dexterity checks covers your attempt to stay on your feet in tricky situations, such as when you're trying to run across a sheet of ice, balance on a tightrope. That sounds pretty roguish. Or whenever you attempt an act of legerdemain or manual trickery, such as planting something or someone or concealing an object on your person. You know, that sounds pretty cool. I can also pick athletics, which is important like when you try to climb, jump, or swim. But let me take sleight of hand. No, I already got a bonus on that. I can't raise my stealth any further, so let me go for acrobatics. Let me also take, maybe I want to trick some people in conversations as well. No, I can only raise this one for now. Okay, got 2. Then I can raise these, so maybe persuasion. It's always a good thing if you can persuade people in a dialogue. So let's raise that one. And also, for example, your charisma. I mean, some skills I cannot take, right? I can't pick these because they just, I guess they won't fit or something. But I can take some of these others. So next, I can take a class expertise. True trained skills of thieves' tools. And these are the ones down here. I can have disguise kit or Manacle on Rosary, and I think so far I can only pick the Thieves tool, right? And then I have to take another one right here. Okay, and then I can learn some languages. So I really have no idea what would be important here, but maybe, you know, he knows his way around. Let me take auto for that and see what the game picks. I can't see what the game picked, but that's fine. So let's move on, because I really don't know what languages I need. And here are your spells, and I can pick one of these spells, and they're described here. You know, for example, I can splash, like this is like an acid bolt, which sounds pretty good for some ranged. You know, if someone gets away from me or something, or I can poison someone before he or she gets to me, I guess. Annoying bee, which is a distraction. Has a disadvantage on concentration checks. Chill touch, deal damage to one enemy and prevent healing for a limited time, which is pretty cool. It's ranged as well. This creates dancing lights that move at your command. I'm not quite sure what that could be used for. But I can press Alt, and it will not tell me that much more. It will tell me like the duration, the casting time, the properties and stuff. I can have Ray of Frost, launch freezing ray at an enemy, damage and slow them. I can pick Shadow Armor, 3 temporary hit points, and I think I would like to take that because that might not be a bad idea. Or Shadow Dagger, launches an illusionary dagger that causes physical damage. Psychic damage, sorry, psychic. So that's pretty good. What should I take? Since I'm new to this game, maybe I want to go for something that will help me if I get into a dire situation, get attacked. And finally, I can input a name and pick the face. There are, I don't know how many there are. I can pick different faces. I think it was 6, right? 6. I can pick a skin tone and body decorations, so just like face paint and stuff and tattoos. I can pick their color. I can pick the color of the hair. Simple. This would be like kind of standout combination. And the eye color plus the physique, and that's just, you know, like a visual thing. I can have them aged. Pretty cool.
Hey, that was mine. There.
I can pick different voices and a pronoun, but that was just what the character creation looked like, and maybe you get an idea of how much I know about the game, because maybe you're thinking, oh my god, he has no idea and he's going to be in so much trouble. Well, let's see. So yes, I do want to cancel because I made some characters myself. I came up, for example, I made a druid, but I made another one which I'm going to use for this game. And you probably will roll your eyes again when you see what I did. I created a human paladin, and that's a starting equipment. He's got some stuff in his inventory because I used them for a new game, but I didn't level him up, and I would like to use him for the new game as well, so you can reuse your characters, which is really cool because I think, you know, when you play D&D, you may put a lot of work into your characters and write like their whole backstory, and then maybe you want to use them for a different adventure if it survives, right? So I made that. I made a druid, which is based on my druid that I used in World of Warcraft, which was my main character for a long time. So he's based a little bit on that, like on the night elves. When you see the skin color and stuff like that, the hairdo is a little different, but yeah. And that's his stats, like his character, high elf, druid, ascetic, the proficiencies. He's got 16 in wisdom, for example. That was, I guess, a good roll. The spells I picked Ray of Frost for some reason. And the druid spells, I took Annoying Bee and Poison Spray. Right? We talked about those before when we looked at the rogue. So next up is this one, the warlock, Jigger. Let's look at him. Right, that's my warlock, and the proficiencies are of course a little different. And the warlock spells, I took Eldritch Blast, Unleash a Beam of Crackling Energy, and Poison Spray, Charm Person, so you can like mind control an enemy, and inflict wounds, which deals necrotic damage. I may have a problem here because it has some negative bonuses applied to like wisdom, but I'll see about that. And once again, I'm a noob, so maybe if I go to like an actual Dungeons and Dragons game at some club or store, maybe I would pick some traits where people go, are you sure about this? But you know, I'm new to this, so let me figure it out. And finally, I also made a ranger because I like rangers and archers. So this is my high elf ranger, and let's see, what does she equip with? She's got torches. She doesn't have a bow yet, but she does actually. Yeah, and regarding proficiencies, we got very high dex there. I got really lucky, I guess, there. And for spells, I also took Annoying Bee. I'm sorry. I can learn new spells later, but I thought, you know, distracting enemies and stuff, that would be nice, and it sounds like something that a ranger would do. So these are the 4 characters that I'm gonna take. Human paladin, my high elf druid, a human warlock, and the high elf ranger. And there's a story campaign. There are actually several campaigns as far as I understand. And your characters will be used in the cinematics and in game, of course. So when the game starts and you see the characters talk at wherever they'll be, you'll see, it's gonna be the characters I created. And so let us take a look. I'm gonna start the game, and the problem here, that's the tough decision I have to make. I will take the basic campaign, Crown of the Magister, that's the subtitle of the game, but I have to choose a difficulty. So there's story mode for players who prefer to focus on the story. Exploration and combat skills will be simplified. I've got the Explorer mode for players unfamiliar with tactical RPGs or the rule set. Now, I am familiar with tactical RPGs. I'm not very familiar with the rule set, so I would probably go for this at first to get an idea of the game and try it out. But since I said I want to play the actual, I want to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons from this game, I'm gonna take the authentic mode for players who want the authentic tabletop rule set. If it fails, if I figure out that I'm totally overwhelmed and that I don't get what the game is trying to do, if I keep dying and failing and stuff, I can still switch back to Explorer mode, but I think I want to try and finish the game and play the game in this mode mostly. There's also the Scavenger mode for players who are ready for a harder challenge, which I don't think I should do by now, and the Cataclysm mode for players looking to defy the odds. You will suffer a lot. So I'm gonna go for authentic mode, and if I fail, if it's too complicated or whatever, I could still switch, but I'm fascinated by Dungeons and Dragons, and I wanted to, before Baldur's Gate 3 comes out, I wanted to check this game. People said it's great for beginners, and it's staying very true to the rule set, and so I want to try it, and it's supposed to be really good when it comes to the combat. So let's try this out. I'm gonna take my paladin, my druid, my my ranger, and finally my warlock. So can I inspect once more? Hold on. No, I'm not gonna leave the setup. So let's get started. Let's watch the cinematic and listen to a little conversation. Yeah. Thanks for joining me, and here we go. Sorry about the loading time. Should have installed it on an SSD, I guess. But we'll be done any second now. Okay.
Before the Cataclysm, there were no gods on Solasta. No humans either. Then, the rift opened. Some say it was a magical accident, or the work of an evil god. No one knows for sure. The Cataclysm destroyed the old High Elf Empire. Manicalan, they called it, and twisted the land beyond recognition. Now, only the brave and the foolish go there, in search of ancient treasures. But something is happening deep in those Badlands.
Those names?
Whatever it is, it can't be good.
Those names really don't tell me anything yet. I've read a few of the novels and stuff, but I don't know much about the game. And in a second, you will see my party starting at an inn. That's how I imagine, like a Dungeons and Dragons game starting. And they'll talk to each other. So let's check that out. But before I get started, one more thing. The voice in that cinematic right now I'm listening to one of these Dungeons and Dragons podcasts that I talked about. It's called the Dungeon Cast. It's two guys talking to each other about how to play the game, the basics and stuff. And one of them, maybe I'm being weird because I'm listening to a podcast during the day and then I play this game right here. Maybe I'm completely thinking something wrong, but it sounds to me like the voice in the cinematic was the voice of that guy in the podcast. I'll have to look it up whether I'm right. So anyway, here is the beginning.
This beer tastes like donkey piss. Not that I'm complaining.
Is this the place for the Legacy Council job? Hope I'm not too late.
Ran into a bit of trouble on the way here. Take a load off. There's plenty of donkey piss to go round. You're not too late, friend. We're all here for the same reason. Grab a chair.
Another round, barkeeper. 4 of your finest flagons of donkey piss, please.
I see you're all making the best of this. We do what we have to. So what's this trouble you were telling us about? I was proceeding down the highway, minding my own business, when 3 brigands burst from the bushes and waylaid me. They carried me off to some ramshackle prison, an imperial ruin of some sort. Fortunately, the walls were as weak as this indifferent ale we're drinking.
So this is the tutorial starting right now. And I think what you saw in that little conversation is that indeed the facial expressions and the character models don't really, I mean, they look a little dated, or, you know, you would maybe expect a little something better. You know, like some of these facial expressions looked a little weird. You know, my paladin looked as if he was about to go run amok with some knights or something, but I don't mind as long as the rest of the game is good. And same goes for the voiceovers. And I'm not quite sure whether I, you know, enjoyed the whole thing about like them calling that stuff donkey piss the whole time. Maybe it's an inside joke I'm not familiar with, but you know, it would have been cooler if it's like beer and then someone calls it donkey piss. But who am I? I'm not an author, right? So what do I know? So this is the tutorial. And I want to play the first part of the tutorial with you. And I did this before. I only played like 10 minutes of the actual story, but I did the tutorial before. And it's going to be sorted into 4 different chapters, teaching you different stuff. And each chapter, it's going to be a different character of mine. And I like this because what we just saw is those 4 characters that I created came together at an inn because they were called there, or there's like an assignment that they are interested in. And that's what I imagine as someone who hasn't played like a Dungeons and Dragons game with other people. I'm thinking, okay, you get together, your characters meet, and you go on a quest together. And I think that's what's going to happen here. So this is my warlock, and he's just telling his story how he was ambushed and captured and has to get out of this prison. And so let's take a look at the controls. You control the camera with WASD, and I can turn the camera with Q and E, and I can move my character with the left mouse button. And that's what the game is explaining right here in these pop-ups. So that's my character. I can zoom in as well. And I think at that distance, you know, the character model looks fine, and the dungeon looks pretty cool. I guess it looks like a little bit like someone built like a little set that people will play on. So he's telling me about the journal, the quest log. So let's take a look at that. Find a way out. There must be a way out of this crumbling prison. The bandits left you in a ruined cell. There must be a weak wall or a hole somewhere in one of the other cells. So I did the tutorial before, and I found this. It's a hole. So the game will explain to me how to get through there. To crawl through there, I just have to click on the other side, and it would be a good idea to actually take a look what's on the other side. Would be weird if there would be some orcs standing around there. So I'm gonna click, and let's follow my character while he crawls through there. So yeah. Next, can loot this container, and we've got a torch. And if you hold the Alt key, you can see stuff that you can interact with, which is what the game is telling me right now. I knew this already, but not because, well, I knew this because I played the tutorial before. So let us move on. There we see there's like, what is this? That's a rock. So let's go there. Tutorial, interactive elements. Highlighted elements are interactive. The cursor indicates the action that can be performed. Opening, pushing, activating, lockpicking. If an action requires a dice roll, the difficulty class will be displayed. So I'm aiming at this and it says push the object. Push this object. So let's do that. Oh, it's a strong warlock. And now there's a little athletics thing coming up. Crawling through this. So I completed the quest to escape the prison. But now I have to leave the cave. And we see there's a container there. There's another one of these rocks. And I guess I have to jump a little bit. Or climb. To jump or climb, simply click on the destination. Depending on your character's strength and proficiency with athletics, you can jump and climb between 2 and 5 cells. You can always jump over 2 cells, drop down 3 cells, and climb up 1 cell, or climb up easy surfaces like ladders or ropes without any trouble. Above, a character with strength below 15 and no proficiency in athletics cannot jump far enough to reach the chest. A fighter with a strength 15 to 20 can jump across 3 cells, so can a character with strength 11 to 14 plus proficiency in athletics. Okay, that's pretty easy to understand. It's a skill check. In general, the critical path is always open to characters without superior physical abilities. However, optional loot is sometimes harder to reach. Don't give up. You may find another way to get to this chest. So I cannot make this jump. And let's look at my character. And he's got his armor class, proficiency, move, hit dice. So we've got strength. See proficiencies. Current athletics +0. Very nice. So I shouldn't try some really hard jumps. So I'm gonna try this one. I almost failed, but that's okay. I don't think I can make this jump. No path to destination, right? So I'm going to continue climbing. And here we've got another interactive object. It says push this object, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so we're across. And then there's this rock, and we'll try to push that, because the chest is right behind it. So let's loot that. Oh, I have to... Did I pushed it out of the way, so I should be able to get through. I am. It's a health potion, right? Yeah. So... let's crawl back. And there's another interactive object, and since we've got nowhere to go, we cannot get to this chest yet. Let's push it. And we took out the bandits. Alrighty. Looting and inventory management. Click on the chest or other container to loot it. Everything you carry affects your weight gauge, so be wary of reaching your weight limit, as this will slow you down a lot. Equipment and light sources must be placed in the appropriate slots before they can be used. Some items can stack in the same cell in your inventory. The maximum number of units depends on the item. To split the stack, hold the control key and so on. So, let's look what's in that chest. And we've got some money. We've got some rations. And we've got some arrows, which maybe we can hand over to our ranger later. And I can see my encumbrance here. So, yeah. I don't know. Dungeons and Dragons maybe like has this game inspired like the encumbrance you have in other games like Skyrim or something? Is that where it originally came from? Or were there other games? I don't know. So, my rogue made it out of the prison and now he's about to make it out of this cave. And so, when next we meet, I would like to continue, and the next tutorial is going to be, I think, about combat, but it's going to be 4 chapters of tutorial, and then I'll get to set out on an adventure, and I'm really looking forward. I heard this game is great when it comes to combat and stuff, and also, I can't wait to see how well I will do. Maybe you're sitting out there thinking, oh my god, that's such a noob. He already made 18 mistakes. Maybe I did. But, you know, look at the title of the video. And D&D Noob plays a D&D game. And thank you for watching. I hope you'll join me next time when we continue the tutorial, get to know other characters, and hopefully I get to learn more stuff about the rule set and how to play this game. So, thank you, and talk to you next time. Bye-bye.